Hey y'all, welcome to season 2 of the Tears and Joy podcast. I'm your host, Julia Light, and I am so glad you're here. Last season on the show, I interviewed 15 leaders, dreamers, and trailblazers who are doing incredible things in the world while navigating life in their 20s with honesty and joy. This season is all about living deeply, getting vision, and shaping culture right where you are. So, we're talking to more people who are doing just that. Everyone you'll hear from on this season is in the next season of life, so out of their 20s, from founders to artists to CEOs, and we're asking the real questions about early career days and how they built a life and a career that they love, learning to dream big and be present even in the messy middles so we can all do the same. Let's jump in. Welcome back to the Tears and Joy podcast. I am so glad you're here. And today I have my friend Rachel Snyder on. Hey, Rachel.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing good.
Good.
Happy to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. I'm going to read Rachel's bio so that you can learn a little more about her before we jump in. So Rachel Snyder is a chef, entrepreneur, natural wine enthusiast, and owner of Rachel Snyder Hospitality. 5 years ago, Rachel left her job in public relations working for chefs and restaurants to be a full-time chef and professional event planner. She's hosted and cooked for venture capitalists, startups, holiday parties, karaokeing pastors, destination weddings, a speed dating event, and even for celebrity judges on Food Network's Chopped. Rachel is based in New York City and is determined to abandon perfectionism, make others feel welcome, and spend more time writing about both. Hey, Rachel! That's so fun. What a great bio.
I know. I always forget I was on Chopped. That
yeah.
always surprises me when that's said.
No, that's so cool.
Oh yeah,
we're definitely going to talk about that. No, that's so fun. My dad was like really into Chopped when I was in middle school, and he would make like all these really weird recipes. It was really fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so first, Rachel Snyder Hospitality. If you're in New York, you probably know all about it, and you've probably been to one of Rachel's amazing events and had the best time ever. But if you haven't been blessed with that yet, or if you've just been to an event but you don't know Rachel, or all of the above, can you tell us about your company, tell us the vision, and what you're doing, what you're up to, what Rachel Snyder Hospitality is all about?
Yeah, sure. I left my job 5 years ago. I was working for a PR agency, doing PR for chefs and restaurants, and anyways, a whole lot has happened since then.
Uh-huh.
But currently, I have a hospitality business where we offer private chefing. I do a lot of events in people's homes, a lot of corporate events, a lot of grazing tables, if you're familiar with those,
Yes.
a lot of cheese and charcuterie.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, a lot of weddings, a lot of corporate events, a lot of happy hours, dinner parties. That's kind of our bread and butter. So
So fun. Okay, and what's the why? Like, why do you love doing this? What do you want to happen at these events? Like, what's your vision?
Well, New York can be a lonely place, as we know. And I really set out to create a dinner party where the conversation would be just as meaty as the food. You know, like I wanted the conversation to reflect depth and honesty and create spaces where people could have unusual conversations. I think I had gone to a networking kind of dinner party in my mid-20s, and I was just like, man, like the conversation here is so shallow.
Yeah.
This can be done in a different way. So I set out to start a dinner club that would be for people to meet people and also have, great food. The party I went to, they hired this amazing private chef, and I was like, I really want to highlight the food, but I also want to highlight the conversation.
Yes.
So everything I've done is kind of stemmed from that place of wanting to create spaces in New York that feel welcoming, that have an atmosphere of welcome, that feel different. Because we've all walked into parties where we've felt like, I don't know anyone, and no one's approaching me, and I don't know, and we've kind of stood in the corner and talked to the wallpaper or whatever. But to be welcomed into a space from the very beginning until the end is an art. And when people started approaching me to hire me for their holiday parties, corporate events, all that, they were like, do you have a business card? You know, when I started doing these dinner parties, I was like, oh, wow, there's a real need for hosted spaces where people who have their eyes on other elements of the event, you know, logistics and everything, they sometimes maybe aren't thinking about, well, what is the ambiance we're creating and how are we making people feel welcome and everything, you know. So we come in, we do the food, and we handle the hosting aspect of all the events. So that's really the mission, is to just create spaces that and enhance events to make them feel really welcoming and beautiful.
I love that. And it's, such a beautiful way to love people, make people feel seen and loved. How do you do that? Like, what makes, like, what you do different than, like, a normal corporate event? Like, obviously the food's amazing and you guys are, like, super kind, but are there any, like, practices you have that you're like, we always do this?
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, I think, you know, we're always bringing in food for events, whether it's a grazing table or a lunch setup or a dinner party, and we want to make that room feel like it's a portal in time, where it's like this experience can never be recreated again, and like and so we want to transform the space. So I'm always thinking about lighting, candles, music, all that, you know, the surroundings. But internally, I spend a lot of time in prayer, and I pray over the space, and I really believe you can change the spiritual atmosphere of the room by bringing in the presence of God. And so I pray for all of my clients and all of my events, because I want it to feel not just like environmentally welcoming, but also in someone's spirit. I want them to recognize this is a sacred space that I'm walking into, or this is a different space that I'm walking into. And the last thing is empowering all the people that are on my team with the kind of charge of, you are the face that people are encountering when people walk in, or you are the person who is, you know, dropping off the meal in front of them. It matters how you interact with the guests, and people will feel a difference if you're really attentive, and you're, you know, we don't want to be overly attentive, but we want to create an environment of welcome, and that is like, I'm not going to talk to everyone during the event. So it's really, so it's really carried out through each person that's working the event. So I want to make sure my staff feels very empowered and very equipped to serve. So
I love that.
Are you like a big dinner party person? Do you like hosting? Like, what's your...
Oh my gosh, yes. That's like my favorite thing. My friend group, we've like done dinner parties. That's like how we all became friends. My best friends in the city. You know Madeline Hicks?
I don't think I do.
You definitely have a lot of mutual friends.
Okay.
Podcast listeners will know she's my first ever podcast interview. But yeah, she's my best friend since college, but she moved to the city a year before me. And so when I moved, she had already been doing some dinner parties, but when I moved is kind of when like our friend group started to form, and we just started like getting people together around the table, and it's been like the best thing. I love it.
What's your role when you host?
My role is I love to cook. I really love to cook, and I'm typically like the organizer, and I would say like when I lived in Texas, I would be the one that's like, let's have a dinner party and like make it happen. But in my friend group in New York, Madeline and our friend Reagan and I are all like organizer, hosts, cooks. And so it's really nice because we like take turns or we'll like cook together. And it kind of reminds me of my mom and her sisters cooking like on the holidays and stuff, because like we get together and we do it. So yeah, it depends, but I love it all. I love hosting. So
and you take the initiative to actually host. So that's
and like get people together, because some people it's like they want to come, but they're not going to be like, let's do this. But others and it's interesting too, because like, and I want to ask you more questions about this, but like it doesn't come super naturally to everyone, and some people didn't grow up hosting, and so they might like, it might actually be really intimidating to them. And they're like, I want to get people together, but like, I don't know how to do this. And so, which is so interesting because like we were always the family that hosted like Christmas or, you know, Thanksgiving and stuff. And so,
Yeah, so it's in your blood.
How did you become familiar with hosting? Was it something you grew up with, or how did that happen for you?
My parents, I think one of the biggest things they passed down to my brother and I is their love for hosting. And like growing up, we had like all of our relatives were out of town and, you know, lived far away. So at any holiday, they were like, whoever doesn't have family, exchange students, international people, like older people that were single, like they would always be at our house for holidays. So
gosh.
They really showed us how to make people feel welcome, and especially from like so many different cultures.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So for me, you know, food is really secondary. Like, hosting is really the thing that I've built my life on.
Yeah.
But, and obviously I'm in the food world. I love food. I read and write about food all day long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always have to even remind myself, like, the food is secondary. Like, you know, and
the people are first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I often have to tell myself, let go of perfectionism. Like, people are just so happy to be there.
Yeah.
Especially if I could just encourage anyone that wants to do dinner parties and things like you, people are just so happy to be invited.
Yes.
And as long as you're opening up your home and creating a welcoming environment, sometimes it's okay if the food gets burned, you know?
Yeah. Yes. It's a fun story. Yeah.
So.
That's so good. Okay. So you're probably at events like how often? Like so many times per week, right? Like, are you extroverted, introverted? Like, how do you like balance your life when like group events are your business? Like, what is that like for you?
That's a great question, because I feel like New York made me more of an introvert, because you're just like around people all the time.
You have to conserve
your But I'm definitely an extrovert by nature. Yeah. I'm like, I think I have like, you know, like a few hours or like 30 minutes of introvert time, and I'm like, okay, I need to see people again.
That was plenty.
But yeah, how do I balance the
like your life, or I guess just you're self-employed, your life as an entrepreneur, like what do your weeks look like, and what have you learned about like balancing that when your life is so like event heavy?
Well, for example, today was an admin day, so I'm reorganizing my storage. I am answering emails. I'm writing. A lot of times my week, like when I don't have an event, it's very chill. Like I'm usually at home. So I feel like I get a really good balance.
Yeah.
And then that also like spurs on my social life, because I'm like, well, I've been at home all day. I need to like
go see your friends.
See people. You know? So
that's so fun. But are you at events like multiple times a week, right?
Yes. It depends on the week. You know, sometimes it could be 2 events, sometimes it could be 4, depending on the week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot. Okay, I would love to hear more of your origin story. Like you mentioned, like, okay, 5 years ago, I quit my job and started this company. And you mentioned, obviously, you grew up hosting, but can you tell us more about, like, in college, did you ever imagine doing this? Like, you worked for chefs, but you weren't actively being a chef. Tell us about post-grad Rachel into entrepreneur Rachel. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
How did you
Sure.
do it? Yeah.
Well, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, like ever since I was a teenager. Okay. I always said, like, I want to have my own business. And I studied public relations only after not doing well at business math and trying to figure out my major. And I was like, I want to do business, but yeah, the math part really tough for me back then. And I had heard about PR, which was basically, someone described it to me as like, it's business but no math and all writing. And I was like, oh, amazing.
Perfect. Yeah.
So anyway, so I majored in PR, and then it was my goal to work at Edelman, which is one of the biggest, it's like the original PR agency, you know. And I finally got my internship there, and the company's, it was great, but I was working on software PR, and I was like, this is not it for me.
No.
You know, I would write a press release and they'd be like, Rachel, it's clear you don't know what you're talking about. I was like, I don't know what I'm talking about.
It is software. Yeah.
And anyways, so I was like, you know what? All I really care about is food. Like, I love reading about it. I love, can I make a career out of that? So I realized one of the only places that you can do food PR is New York. And through a series of circumstances, really wanted to move here. And so I ended up working at an agency that did only chef and restaurant PR. And my vision with that was like, man, there's so many talented chefs. I want to be the person that gives them a platform and like shows the world that they're so great, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was always about like lifting them up.
Yeah.
And I was in that basically until I quit my job to be a chef full time. But I told you about how I started the dinner club with my friend, and then that was taking off. But then at the same time, someone asked me to create a cheese board for some event that they were doing. And I just like Googled like grazing table, and I was like, I think I could do that.
Oh yeah.
And I did, and so many people at the party were like, do you have a business card? Can I get you to do my holiday party for my company? And I was like, no, but here's my email. I mean, just email me. And at the same time, my other friend was like, I know you've been doing these dinner clubs, like you've been cooking for them. I would do 5 courses, 5 wine pairings, and my friend would like coordinate a beautiful conversation prompt for the table.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing. And she's like, yeah, I told these people you could like cook for their party. And I was like, what? So it was kind of like a flood all at once.
Yeah.
I was getting asked to do all these things. I would take off a day of work, go do a grazing table, or go cook for some person's event.
Yeah.
And then I would just go back to my desk the next day. And I was like, okay, that was fun. I made some money, you know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I mean, I feel like not even a year later, a chef I used to be a publicist for reached out. He had a restaurant in West Village, and he said, I see you came over to the dark side. And I was like, what?
Oh.
He's like, I see you became a chef. And I was like, well, I created an Instagram.
Were you still at your job at that point?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, not even thinking about.
And he's like, you're a chef.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, well, sure, I'll come in and chat. So anyway, so we chatted. The end result was, why don't you rent out my restaurant on Monday nights while I'm closed and bring in your crew, bring in, you know, your team of servers, and do your dinner club at my restaurant. And amazing. I was like 25 years old. I was like, I've never cooked in a restaurant before.
Right.
I don't have a crew.
Yeah. Like, right, my crew. Yeah.
Yeah. But I just felt like the opportunity was so insane to not pass up. And I was like, I talked to a friend, and I was like, man, I'm scared of, I don't know how to run a kitchen. I don't know how to plate things at a restaurant and send everything out at the same time. I don't know. And she's like, look, I think you should think about the worst case scenario. Like, if you burn everything and, you know, someone gets mad because of it, the chef gets mad, whatever. She was like, is that going to be the end of the world?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, I think the risk is going to outweigh no, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, it will be worth it.
It'll be worth it. And yeah, so I sold tickets, and I did my first pop-up ever at this beautiful West Village restaurant. I mean, it was insane. I told people, like, you know, bring your coworkers, bring your friends. The whole point of this night is going to be to have beautiful, like, rich conversations. And I sent out conversation starters with every course. I did 5 courses. We did 5 wine pairings. Actually, it was unlimited wine on a Monday night.
Wow.
We were 25 back then.
That's so
And and yeah, took over this restaurant for one night, and it was incredible. And the conversations, I remember people telling me afterwards that they had more rich conversations with their friends that night than they'd had in years.
Wow.
And I had spent so much time praying over that night and praying for exactly that.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like there's something special here.
Yeah.
It was beyond the food,
Yeah.
And again, then I went back to my desk job and I was like, all right, well, that was fun. And I did not think about quitting my job until,
really?
Yeah, I just thought,
you must have liked your job then. Yeah.
I mean, it was a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just hadn't occurred to me that was an option.
Right. Okay. Wow.
So it wasn't until this couple I know that owns a coffee shop, they reached out to me and they were like, we see all this stuff that you're doing. We would love to chat with you. So I just went into their shop one morning and they were like, we think you should quit your job. Like, we are all for people quitting your job. You can look at our business plan if you want. Like, they were so generous. And I remember walking out of there and being like, I think I need to quit my job. It was that simple.
Yeah.
And then after that, I went to my desk and I was like, the time here is done.
Wow. Just like that.
Just like that. It just made sense.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
How amazing is it to have people that see you and that call out a gift? And then I've had that several times in my life where someone has just called something out and it has changed the course of my life.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, you're right. It's incredible.
Yeah. Just someone's generosity of like
being
or their encouragement, of like saying like, you're really good at this. You should actually do it.
And you're like, oh, I think I will. Yeah. That's incredible. Wait, also, like, how did you learn to cook? Was it from your parents or like, how did you, obviously it probably started as a hobby, but like now you're a chef. Like, how have you learned all the things?
Well, I remember one moment with that chef who owned the restaurant where we were sitting down and I recalled a dish that he'd made years earlier and I remembered every single thing in it. And he was like a little taken aback. And I was like, I was also a little taken aback. I was like, oh, like almost embarrassed. I was like, oh yeah, I remember everything about that dish. And then I realized, I think in flavor. Like,
whoa. I
think some people think in numbers or music or visuals or what, and I was like, this is a really special way that my brain works. Like balance. I always think in flavor, balance, and does something need salt, acid, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a little bit of just like something that I already possessed, but then I was reading and writing about food all day long at these restaurants, and I was learning from chefs as I was a publicist. But yeah, I mean, I didn't go to culinary school or whatever. I think I Googled like, can you call yourself a chef if you've never been to culinary school?
And the answer is yes.
I mean, well, a lot of people start in restaurants and then they work their way up, and that's how they get on that journey. But it was just something I learned along the way.
That's incredible. As a teenager, did you like to cook? As a kid, like, when did it, like, were you always cooking?
I was always cooking.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah. I was but I never thought it would be professional.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I always loved flavor. Like I actually, in high school, I think I was like dreaming about like, what if I had a bakery one day? Which, LOL, I'm not a baker. But I really wanted certain flavor combinations in some baked goods, and I remember dreaming up like what the menu would be. But yeah, I always hosted my friends in high school. Like I told my mom, I was like, I need martini glasses, and she's like, excuse me, for what? And I was like, to make mocktails for my friend's Christmas party, you know, like
That's so cute.
when I was like 15.
He's like, why do you need a more teaching class, girl? That's so cute.
So yeah, I was always like really big on
I
hosting
love
when I was a
that.
kid. And yeah.
That's so fun. Oh my gosh. I love that. That's perfect. Amazing. Okay, you kind of mentioned this, but like, yeah, I will always love to ask about like crazy stories that you're like, if this hadn't happened, literally my whole life would be different. Places where you feel like it was like divine intervention or it's like right person at the right time. Like, I know you're talking about that couple that sat you down and was like, hey, you should quit your job.
Yeah.
Any other things that like, come to mind you haven't shared yet?
I mean, I think the big pivotal moments were someone telling me I would do really well in New York. That was the first one. The second was the chef reaching out and saying, you should rent my restaurant. And I think the third would be that couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang. Have there been any since? Like, or any, I guess, have there been any like big shifts in your business since you started? Or do you feel like it's been going like in the same direction? You know what I mean? Like
Lauren Carlson has changed my life forever, if you know her.
Talk about it. I love that girl so much.
I kind of mentored Lauren through college and eventually when she helped me with lots of events while she was in college, and eventually when she graduated approached me and said, Rachel, I really want to work for you. You know, I'm already auditioning and you know, pursuing her dream in the acting world, but I would also like to work with you.
Yeah.
And that woman has changed my life in so many ways, because for so long I was doing this by myself, and there'd be people that would pop in and out of helping for seasons, but at the end of the day this was always my business. And I feel like every entrepreneur will tell you, like, nobody cares as much as your business as you. So to have the fierceness that Lauren brings of helping with events and helping me charge what I'm worth, and like, that's been a huge shift of, you know, second guessing what I'm charging, what my services are when I was by myself. But then when you hire someone, you're like, oh, I have 2 mouths to feed now. So I actually am not just providing for myself. I need to advocate for someone else.
Wow.
So just even growing my team has shifted the way I run my business, and has made me want to be a really good person to work for too. So that's also been a big shift.
Wait, I love that. She always tells me she listens to the podcast. So, hey, Lauren, I love you so much. That's so fun. Oh, no, and that's so true, having like your team. And yeah, just a second. That's a really good point as an entrepreneur. Like, yeah, once it goes from just you and then you find someone who does care and is like running alongside you, it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Dang. That's awesome. And that was what, like 3 or 4 years into your business?
Yeah, about 3.5 years in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Incredible. That's amazing.
Which felt like a million years by myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, totally. Totally. Okay, what is your vision? Because you obviously, like, you have Lauren working with you the most out of anyone, but you also lead a bunch of other people, right? And you have different people that come in and work different events. Like, as a leader, as a boss, like, what's your vision? What's your hope for your team, and how do you seek to live that out?
Yeah, the cool thing is that when you're starting your business, you're just kind of throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks, and you don't really know where you're going. Like, I mean, some people do. I didn't.
Right.
And what's really cool is that it has come kind of full circle in a way, because as we grow, we've been getting bigger events, and so I need to bring in other chefs. And kind of like my first PR job, I now get to elevate these chefs and give them a place to be creative. And, you know, working in restaurants is so hard.
Yeah.
I actually did end up working at the West Village restaurant after I quit my job. So I
cool.
So I do have some restaurant
that's
experience,
awesome.
but I know sometimes if you're working on a team, it's not necessarily your menu, or if you're working at a restaurant, it's not your menu.
Right.
And so giving these incredibly talented chefs that I work with a place to be creative and bring their own menu to the table is really special. Like that gives me so much joy to provide spaces for these people to be creative. So shout out to all my incredible chefs that I get to work with. And then on top of that, we have a full team of servers who are incredible, who Lauren has helped bring in. And I think that's shifted, I'll say this. When I quit my job, I was like, this was never my plan to become a chef. Yeah. Never a dream, So if one day I lose the ability to taste or, whatever, my identity is not in being the best chef. I'm not trying to build Rachel Snyder Hospitality as like Rachel is the best chef ever. Like that's not my goal. I'm trying to serve people. I'm trying to create spaces that are welcoming. And now I'm like, I want to be a really good, like I said, good person to work for. And I want to create a team that feels like people, like I just want to be a really good boss.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my dream right now. So,
and that's amazing.
I love giving people jobs. Like the fact that I've been able to grow and now I get to give people jobs is
incredible.
So, and that we all love working together. Yeah. We have so much fun every time we do an event, So that's kind of how the dream has kind of shifted. I'm cooking a lot less for events and more, I've kind of taken that back for myself a little bit, and I cook a lot at home and hosting in my own space.
I love that.
And in turn, I get to hire these incredible chefs and eat their food. So,
that's awesome.
So, the team is growing. We've seen a lot of growth this year.
Wow.
So I'm really, and I have to credit a lot of that to Lauren. So I'm really grateful.
Shout out, Lauren.
Yeah, again.
Wow. That's incredible. And just so cool too to hear one, like, that is the beauty of starting a business. You're literally starting opportunities for people to have jobs and like having a work environment that like shapes their life and blesses their life and like their family and their view of the world. Like, starting a business isn't about like building something cool for your name. It's like you can do it in a way that actually, and you already were impacting all the people that you serve at the events, but now it's like even more just like blessing people with good things and good jobs and
right.
Like,
yeah. It's like,
and that's like such a good reason, even if someone's like thinking about starting a business, like that's a really good, like, so that more people can have a job that they love.
Yeah.
A team that they love.
Yeah. When I was younger, like getting to work events, like I loved it, you know? So it's a joy to be able to do that for other people.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you started doing early on, either in your business or just in your like young adult life, that you look back now a few years later and you're like, I am so glad that I did that because that has made me into this person? Like something you started several years ago that you're like, man, good choice, Rachel.
I think getting really involved with a great church here in New York early on was one of the best decisions I ever made. And I discovered all these, I would say all these things about God, or I think my old views of God were shattered when I started going to the church I still go to now. And I really, I discovered that prayer matters and our prayers matter, and it makes a difference. And I started incorporating prayer into everything I do. And like I said, I pray for my clients. I always think like, man, there's so many people that this person could have chosen to cook for their event. But for some reason, they came to us. So we have to hold them so preciously and like just believe that like we're meant to serve these people.
Wow.
So one of my practices is praying for my clients and praying for my meetings too. When I have a little sticky note in my room where I do a lot of my work calls, and I try to pray for my meetings every day and realize that I didn't get myself here. Like, somehow God shifted my life, and this is like now I'm cooking in people's homes. What is going on?
Yeah, you know, that's pretty cool.
Who trusted me to do this?
Yeah.
So I try to pray for every client that has come my way, because I just recognize like it's not me that got me here.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love, like, even you were talking about your first big event in the West Village restaurant. Like, you prayed that people would have the best conversations ever. And that they did. Like, everyone told you, like, they did. And that's just, like, so cool, even to have an early example on of, like, an answered prayer in this field.
And I've just noticed also the difference when I don't do that.
Really?
And I also think it just makes me more aware of like what God is doing when I am inviting him into the space. So
yeah,
I mean, he's there regardless, but like when we're inviting him, it's like all of a sudden your eyes are open and you're like seeing things in a spiritual realm that you're not, that you wouldn't have maybe seen if you had just like dove into the event and like not really thought about it or prayed for it.
Wow.
So
that's beautiful.
Those are some thoughts on prayer.
Yeah, I love that. No, and yeah, that is a really good thing, that any practice like that, you look back years later and you're like, good idea. Like, I'm glad, because you grow in it so much over time, you know.
Do you have any practices that you do or anything that comes to mind?
I was thinking about writing a Substack article about this, which is why I wanted to start asking people about it. Like, what's something you started doing in your early 20s that you look back and you're like, great idea? Because I was thinking about things that I'm doing now. I'm in my mid 20s, I guess, but like that I think I'm honestly, one of them is babysitting. I think like being around kids has just like impacted me so deeply.
Wow.
And like I serve in kids ministry as well. So I think that is definitely one of them. Just because like in your early 20s, like young single life, like you could never see a child, like other than like just on the street, you know, or you could be like best friends with families and like helping raise their children. And like, it doesn't have to be your job. It can just be something you do like on the weekends. But I feel like that has been a really cool thing for me.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know sometimes I walk by a school in New York when it's like getting out like, and you're like, whoa, I've never seen this many kids in New York in my life. They're all here.
Yeah, they're all just.
But if you don't see them, you know, if you're not there, you won't see them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. You should totally write that. Thanks. I love that.
I will.
I am also thinking of like surrounding yourself with different generation. I mean, younger generation as well. But I really sought out women who were older than me, and it didn't even matter. Like, it didn't even matter if they're in the same field or. I just wanted to be around wisdom. So I really I sought out a lot of my church moms, I call them, like who really changed my life when I first moved here. And you know, you're far away from your family, and it's just amazing to have older women that you can go to. So
totally, it is. And I feel like as young people, we don't always realize that older people want to meet up with us if we just ask, you know. But then it's like, no, like they would love to get coffee with you, but they might not bug you to do it. And so yeah,
it's kind of up to you. And I think one of them even told me, she's like, look, if you want people in your life, or like if you want mentorship or you want community, it's there for you. You just have to go do it.
Literally.
So
go do it. That's really cool.
That's another one. Another one for the list.
Another one for the list, yes. I know. I'm excited to like gather everyone's thoughts on that. Okay, speaking of Substack, you have Substack.
I do.
And it's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
It's called Anyone Can Host, yes. I love it. I just subscribed recently. Tell us about that. How long have you been doing that? Because you obviously also love writing, and so you're combining these things. Tell Tell us about it.
Well, I feel like even though I always loved writing, I did not really push myself to do it until a few months ago.
Oh my gosh,
This
so
is
it's
a very
new.
new.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's why it's new to me because
Oh, it's very new.
it's new.
Yeah.
Oh wow, you
It
seem like
feels-
such a pro.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, so part of my mission, is to make people feel welcome and seen, and I realized I can't host every person around my table. I wish I could,
It's true.
but you can. So if everyone's doing it, then we would have such a different culture in New York. So the other part of my mission is equipping people to host.
Gosh.
So that's where Anyone Can Host comes from, because I'm like, look, even if you don't cook, you don't have to cook.
Order pizza.
You can order pizza. You can order, you can do like a pizza taste test and order pizzas from 5 different places and create a little themed night. You can you can theme anything. People are just so happy to be invited.
Yes.
So that's where Anyone Can Host comes from.
I love that. And so your different posts are like ideas for hosting, things that people can do that are kind of like user friendly, right?
Totally. Yeah. So I have different, every week is different, but sometimes it's hosting ideas. I did like unusual party ideas. I think recently I've done recipes, which is really hard for me because I don't measure anything. So I have to go back and measure.
I don't measure anything either.
Well, that's a sign of an intuitive cook. Yes. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But people will ask me, I have like a few recipes that I've invented, like not many yet, but like a few. And friends like, please, did you write it down? I'm like, I'm sorry, I started writing it down and then I stopped,
Oh my goodness. Okay. Next time you are cooking for me.
Okay, let's do it.
That's amazing.
But anyway, yes, I'm just saying I understand about not measuring, but you put your recipes.
We've got some recipes. I want to interview a few key people who are really good at hosting and learn from their hosting tips. It's a variety, but it's basically just empowering people to get out there and host.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I was going to ask you this anyway, and I didn't even know that it was like such a part of your mission, but like if anyone's listening and they were like, well, I'm scared of hosting, but I want to do it, or I say like, what do you would say that anyone can host, and you would say that everyone should host.
Yeah.
Would you? Yeah, I would agree with that. So if someone's like, hosting's not for me, how would you get them off the bench? How would you be like, yes, it is? Like, what would you say?
Well, I'm like, do you have people in your life who either you want to bring around a table or an event, or who might be really excited to come to something that you host? Well, then you probably should create a space. So a lot of things I hear, like I live in New York, my apartment's too small. Yeah. Okay, then find someone else's apartment or host it at a bar or restaurant. You can create a little event.
Or host 3 people.
Or host, or sometimes 3 people. I used to, when I was like in my young 20s, I would have like a bi-weekly soup night with some girls, and we would always like do a different soup.
That's so cute.
And it became such a intimate little evening with like 4 friends. Yeah. I think some people say like, well, I can't cook. There's many avenues around that, like we just mentioned. Or you can employ a friend to cook. Yeah. I think a lot of people are afraid, if I invite people, what if they don't show up? Or what if no one wants to come? Well, then maybe like partner with a friend and to build some confidence, and
that's a good idea.
Have them also do some of the inviting. And there are just, I guarantee you there are people out there, whether it's coworkers or friends of friends, people you've met at parties, who are just like longing to be invited somewhere.
Yes. So, oh my gosh, yes.
And hosting also just bridges the divides that we have in culture too. And so it's for everyone.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Okay, and if someone did want to learn to cook, and they're listening, they're like, I have no idea how to cook. I wish someone would tell me like what I should do to learn a little bit of confidence in the kitchen. Like, any thoughts?
Well, I think just getting a cookbook that looks really fun to you and just picking a recipe from whatever feels intriguing to you.
Yeah.
Do something that will excite you and maybe scare you a little bit, But and if you're a little intimidated, especially if it's the first time you're cooking something and you're hosting a bunch of people, then again, invite a friend to do it with you.
Yeah.
But I love a lot of, Allison Roman has a few cookbooks, Molly Baz.
Yeah.
There is the book Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, which is so helpful in just learning about balance in food and cooking, and it kind of inspires more intuitive cooking. So that's also a really good resource.
That's so good. Okay, I love that. This is another question that I'm wanting to incorporate more in this season of the podcast, and it's also one you might have to think about, but I think about this all the time, like the phrase ancient wisdom, like from the Bible, it says to everything there's a season. How have you seen that play out in your life? To everything there's a season.
There's been many iterations of my business, but there's been seasons where I've had a lot of help and there's been seasons where I haven't. And I just have to remember I'm still on the right path. I'm still getting clients, and I guess that means we're doing something right.
Yeah.
And there's just seasons of loneliness in that. There's seasons of loneliness as an entrepreneur.
Definitely.
So finding people who support you and having good community is so important. But also, I think it took like 3-4 years to really feel like the fear of I don't know when the next gig is coming, for that to totally dissipate.
Yeah.
And I want to say 4 years, and that is a really challenging season where you're like, I just have to have faith that I'm still on the path that I'm supposed to be on. So I encourage a lot of my friends who are starting out on their own ventures, like, okay, well, are you financially okay? Like, is there still money in the bank account, and are you still like getting clients? I know you don't know when the next one is, but like, do you have, is it looking generally good? Okay, well, then you're still doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You're still in the right lane. Keep going. And
yeah, that's really
so
good.
I think there's seasons of feast and famine, as we say,
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, but knowing like it won't always be like this.
Right.
And you're still on the right path.
Right.
That's really good.
Yeah.
What are you dreaming about for the future of Rachel Snyder Hospitality, Rachel Snyder's life? Like, what dreams are on your heart right now that you're kind of stirring for the new year?
I'm really excited about all the new services we're offering. I feel like our partners and what we do just keeps growing. Like, we've got some amazing friends who do jazz at some of our events, so I always get excited when we get to book jazz for our events. We have we did a cruise for a company last summer.
That's so cool.
Up in Nyack, we did a river cruise on the Hudson.
That's so fun.
And they are a fantastic partner of ours now, and so we love getting to offer cruises.
Yeah,
so fun.
Oh my gosh,
we'll take care of the food. They'll take you along the river, and you just show up.
That's so fun.
So yeah, the team and the wonderful people we get to work with just keeps growing and growing.
Yeah.
And I heard this from one of my friends of just when you're trying to grow, it's so important to network laterally and help your friends out and they help you out.
Yeah.
Versus shooting for the people that are really busy and have made it already and are really unattainable. It's like, well, there's so many people around you that are like wanting to get started. And I have other friends who are in the hospitality world doing similar things. And so we will pass clients between each other of like, if we can't do one event. You know? So I'm just, it just excites me to see people like starting their own ventures and getting to work with them. And then in general, I'm I'm excited about this writing thing. You know, I've just been doing that more, and it feels brave, or not. Sorry, well, yes, but it feels not to say I'm brave, but
you are.
It feels vulnerable to put out writing that might not be perfect, and I'm not a trained editor, but there's something about it that's just giving me a lot of excitement and thrill. So
I love that.
I don't know where that's going. I'm reading a lot of books right now. A lot of I love a vignette. You know?
Okay.
I just read a chef's biography, and she wrote it in like a vignette format, almost poetic, but I'm not a poet. But anyways, I've put some stuff out there. I think I told you I wrote my first non-hosting piece on love.
And it came out this week.
When
we're recording, not when the episode. So it's already out.
Yeah.
When the episode.
People can see it.
It's amazing.
But yeah, that just feels like personal. Like that's just a personal thing that feels scary and fun, and you know,
really brave.
And also just I called it like, these are the sparkly things that are outside of what I normally am doing that I'm for the new year, that I'm just like, okay, writing feels really sparkly and fun. I'm going to follow that. And
I love that. Oh my gosh.
Do you have any new sparkly fun things that you're doing this year that just really excite you?
Well, doing this, the show again is like so fun. Basically I decided for the year, like, first half of the year, I'm focusing on my acting career, and second half of the year, I want to produce an album. That's crazy to say, but I do.
I love a big dream.
Yeah, so I've been writing songs for actually 20 years, and I'm like, Julia, it's time to, do something with it. So yeah, I wouldn't normally say that on the podcast, but I definitely think my like crazy idea empowerment grid has really grown, and I'm just like, yeah, I am going to do that. You know what I mean? So
why not?
Yeah. Those are like bigger sparkly things, I would say. But yeah, it's just so fun. It's so fun to dream, and just to be like, oh, I'm going to do this thing that feels scary and brave. Or like, I'm going to tell someone I'm going to do it, so then I have to do it. So it's real. And yeah. And like we were talking about earlier, of just like, your writing is so good. And it's like, you shared about something that's like a little more personal. But it's like, I related to that so much. And probably 300 other people will too. And like, to make something feel seen, make something that makes someone feel seen is like so special. And like any creative venture in hospitality and writing and music, and it's just really cool. So
wow, I can't wait to listen.
Oh my gosh, thanks. Yeah, I'll keep you posted. We'll see. Wow, Rachel, this was so fun.
So fun.
You're so awesome.
Oh, thank you. Well, Julia, you really live out your last name. You are radiating.
Thank you.
It's a joy to be here, and also just to see how you encourage other people through your podcast. And it's an honor to be an encouragement on this as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, definitely. I feel very encouraged. And I know everyone listening does too. Rachel, where can we find you, and how can we keep up with all the fun things that you're doing? I'll link your Substack, but you're like on Instagram, you have your website.
Yes, my Substack, Anyone Can Host, my Instagram, Rachel Snyder NYC, and my website, rachelsnyder.nyc.
Perfect. And everyone can come to your amazing events and book you for all of their cool things.
We do like throw events.
Yeah.
So
I've been to some of that.
Yes.
And it's so fun.
Focusing on business right now, but I'm sure that'll come around again. So stay tuned.
Or if you have a business and you need to call Rachel, you know what to do.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Oh, well, thanks so much for listening, friends, and we will see you next time.
Hope to see you around the grazing table.
Thanks for tuning in, friends. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on Substack and Instagram, and send this episode to a friend who you know will love it. Don't forget to be present, dream big, and remember that you are shaping culture right where you are. We can't wait to see you back next week.